Napoli fans around the world, welcome to a late episode of Napoli Talk. I did watch the game, even though I couldn't make the live afterwards, and I have a few thoughts about it, right? So first of all, I want to start off by saying, Lobotka, man, I love you, all right? Let's just be very clear about that. I love Lobotka. He came out in that second half and really said, you know what? In front of Cesc Fabregas, I'm going to show you what I'm all about. And obviously then Fabregas in the post-match conference could do nothing else but he praised on Lobotka. That's how good he is. And this guy is so underrated. If he was from any other nationality, English, Spanish, French, even Italian, he would be just so much more in the headlights. But thankfully for us, he's not. And so he's a little bit still hidden, right? But yeah, just incredible performance by him, especially in the second half, guys. 7 out of 7 duels won. Nothing could get past him. And the way that he scanned the entire field before passing the ball to Lukaku, it's something that, if you want to become a good midfielder, not just a good midfielder, but a great midfielder, study Lobotka, okay? This is prime Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets kind of level that he's operating at. I'm not kidding when I say that. I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm not trying to be clipped for some likes. This is honestly my opinion. He's up there at that same level at this moment in time. He's just tremendous. The amount of things that he does in a game, the way he's able to make those kind of passes, but then also be our best defender. Again, 7 out of 7 tackles won in key areas of the field. Wow, just wow, Lobotka. And, I could go on for another 10 minutes, but man, I love you. I honestly, that's just all I have to say, But anyways, let's go back to the overall game, guys. It couldn't have started in a better way, right? With Scott McTominay getting the first goal. But what's really interesting about that goal, okay, we all know about the position of Scott next to Lukaku. We've spoken about it in previous games. Unless you're new to the channel, there's not even a need for me to bring this up in a screenshot. But what I found very interesting was the pass to Di Lorenzo towards Lukaku. And the moment that the pass was played, take a look at Politano's position. It's so important because he stands in front of Lukaku, right? And then as the pass is played, he moves. Now, why is that so important? First of all, because defenders think that the ball might be going to Politano, right? Number one. And so it eases up a little bit the pressing on Lukaku. Number two, the guy who's on the pressing on Lukaku, right? If there wasn't Politano there, what he could have done is anticipate the pass, get ahead and around of Lukaku and intercepted it, right? Because the distance between Di Lorenzo and Lukaku is actually quite long. So there's all the time in the world for this guy to go around and intercept the pass, no matter how much Lukaku tries to, fend them off. But having Politano there means that the defender behind Lukaku can't make that movement, right? Because if he tries, not only does he have to get past Lukaku, but he also then has to make up another 2-3 meters, or let's say 8-10 feet, to get ahead of Politano as well, which is way too risky, because if he doesn't pull that off, Politano grabs the ball, he can turn around, and then he sets Lukaku off free, without Lukaku anymore having a marker behind him. That means that Politano's position there prevents Lukaku's marker from making that movement. So the defender stays behind Lukaku, and when Politano eventually moves out of the way, Lukaku has the opportunity to now turn on that defender, and then he finds Scott McTominay. But Politano's awareness is crucial, and it wasn't just his awareness up the field, it was also his awareness defensively. He was often the fifth defender alongside Di Lorenzo, guys. I mean, look, I'm not a huge Politano fan, right? I've criticized him a lot, but I wouldn't say I'm a Politano hater. I know there's a few people that are like that. I've always been 50-50 about it. I've always said how great of a workhorse he is, and that he has been improving in his understanding of the game and also the things that he does are less predictable than, let's say, 2 or 3 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, the only thing that he could do was cut inside on his left foot and take a shot. Now he's got some different elements to his game. He's often going long and crossing it with his right foot, for example. Defensively, he's contributing a lot. Guys, there's a reason why Nico Pads kept having those shots, and then the goal ended up happening on the other side of the field. The side of the field where, for example, Kvara was. Now, it's not Kvara's fault because the tactical instruction from Conte was different to Kvara than to Politano. Kvara was playing more in support of Lukaku on the same line as Lukaku than Politano. Politano's instruction was to come back and make it a bit of a five-man defense. And then we see in the second half where Como do not have any more clear-cut chances, really, apart from one. The reason for that is because Conte then tells Kvara in the second half to do the same as what Politano had been doing, right? To track back a little bit more. So, I'm not saying that it was Kvara's fault, the goal, that he didn't track back, because that was not the instructions given to him. I'm just saying that on the right-hand side, Conte gives Politano that instruction because he knows that Politano is going to be able to do that effectively, and at least they avoid situations on one of the flanks, and now they just have to manage the other, right? And you don't want to tell Kvara to defend too much throughout the entire game, because then you lose a little bit his potential going forward. But anyways, guys, I wanted to highlight that happened in the first goal. But honestly, guys, the first half was a little bit meh, right? Like, once we scored with Scott McTominay, big game player, well, not big game because it's Como, but big moment player, scoring in the first minute on like your second game at home, pretty much. This guy's got the minerals to do well. But after that, Napoli, I think, went a little bit too deep, and the midfielders had to really step it up in the second half. We spoke about Lobotka. Anguissa also was in crescendo, but that typically happens with Anguissa. Anguissa normally has a much better second half than a first half just throughout his career. It's always been like this. He's just way more of a guy that I think can hold a specific 8 out of 10 level, and maybe in the first half everybody is at 8, 9 out of 10, and so he doesn't really make that much of an impact compared to them. Then people start dropping off as they get tired, and Anguissa just stays at that level, and so then you start seeing a little bit the difference, and he starts coming out a bit more. But in that second half, right, so what changed? Kvara's position changed. We spoke about it. He went a little bit more back. It gave Napoli a bit more ability to control Como's attacks. Then the other thing that happened was, okay, we were doing this when Como had the ball and they were sort of, in our half of the field. But when Como had the ball in their half of the field, the instruction was very clear to go and press them super aggressively, right? And really try to use Como's self-confidence that they have, this ability to play from the back. They think, they're all mini Cesc Fabregases in there. Use this self-confidence to their disadvantage and force an error, because guess what? They are not little Cesc Fabregases, or not everybody in that team is. And so they make a mistake, which Oliveira capitalizes on. And Oliveira as well, guys, he had to run a lot in this game. Pressing like that and then coming back whenever, maybe that pressing was unsuccessful. But anyways, he was there, he was present, he puts in, I think, that physicality. He's able to resist those 90 minutes that maybe Spinazzola just doesn't have, right? Spinazzola is like a burst of energy. He's very skillful, but I don't think you can ask Spinazzola to press the full length of the field like Oliveira can do against these teams that are, trying to play from the back. I think it's important to have a player like Oliveira. And Lukaku, takes that penalty. It's cool. A lot of pressure on him, but he got a little bit lucky. Let's not deny it. It was, I'm a big fan of players hitting the ball centrally. I think goalkeepers, 9 out of 10 dive, and so why not try centrally? But it was very, very close to touching the feet of that Como goalkeeper, right? So, thankfully it went in, but there was an element of luck. The thing is that even under 2-1, the game was still quite tricky for us, right? That didn't set Como back at all. What happened, however, was that there was that situation, right? Or there were those two situations. One was the Kvara penalty call that was not given, and the other was the foul on Anguissa that was not given, right? And both of those situations that happened so close to each other in the space of a few minutes got the crowd absolutely going. You could tell that the energy in the stadium just went to the next level. You could hear the boos, you could barely hear the commentator on the TV because those boos were just so intense and so loud. And I think that was Como's downfall, those fouls, because it sparked life into the Napoli players, right? I think there was a time up until those fouls where Napoli was conceding to Como, even though we had that penalty that got us back to 2-1, but we were under pressure from Como. And then when that happened, we felt a strong sense of injustice, and the crowd got really behind the players and against the Como players, that it sparked something in this Napoli team. And I'm so happy that happened. I'm so happy to see that spark, because I think this Napoli team at times in the past maybe lacked that last year, right? But now, they got that energy, and yeah, it should have been a foul on Kvara. It should have been a penalty. I mean, the guy, even though it's not a massive push, he still pushes Kvara with two hands behind the back as he's about to take a penalty. So, for me, it's a clear foul, and I feel bad for Kvara because he's getting fouled so much and it never gets called. And what's crazy to me is that we know that he's not a diver, so I don't see why referees are not giving him the benefit of the doubt, let's say, when things are a bit maybe 50-50, like yes, the shove is there, but maybe the intensity is not a lot, it's a bit 50-50 potentially. I would give Kvara the benefit of the doubt because he's never been a diver. But anyways, that, and then the one on Anguissa that didn't get called in the middle of the park. Buongiorno getting a yellow card, coming in to confront the Como players because of that foul. All that sparked that sense of injustice in the Napoli players, and I think that gave them then the energy to go and win more duels against Como. Really show like, what, screw you guys. Like we gotta now make sure that nobody bullies us at home. And after those moments, I felt like Como couldn't win a single duel. They kept losing out to Anguissa and Lobotka and all these guys. And Napoli really said, like these guys, they're not messing with us at home. They can't come around here and push us around and all that. They want to fight, we'll fight. And that was the key. The intensity went up in the game, and that was Como's undoing, right? Because they woke up a sleeping beast in that game. Then obviously, Neres comes on, and he's such an impact player. He has so much impact that not only is he able to make goals and assists, but his lightning pace is able to even injure the other players. One guy tried to run after Neres and pulled a hammy. This is the sort of impact that, it's important to have off the bench as well, right? Like, some people want Neres to start, and I get it. I'm super curious to see him play from the start. And, potentially you play Neres from the start, you go 2 or 3 goals ahead at halftime. According to his stats, that's what, scientifically should happen. But then again, I think having a player like that is so impactful off the bench is also something nice to have. And maybe from the start of the game, he's not able to really make the same level of impact when other players are fresh and all that, right? Maybe he doesn't have the capacity to last 60, 70 minutes. We have to test it out. We haven't seen it. But I feel like Conte knows more than us what he sees from training every day. I have so much trust in Conte that if Conte doesn't play him from the start, I feel like there must be some kind of good reason. And yeah, I think why break a toy that's not working? Or why fix a toy that is not broken is what I meant to say. And look, if you have this weapon that, you know, you put him on in the 75th minute and he scores or gives you an assist categorically, then why break that magic? You know? Because maybe you put him on at the start and maybe he doesn't have that same impact when other players are fresh. Now, it's unfair not to eventually test it out, and I get it. But I kind of get Conte as well. I don't know what you guys think. Also, again, Politano provides that level of extra defending that maybe Neres still has to prove that he can do, right? And until Conte doesn't have those guarantees from Neres, then he won't play him. Anyways, guys, that's my analysis of the game. I think it can all be concluded in like 3 points. Lobotka, I love you. Como really messed up by waking up a beast in the second half. And that beast is, you know, the entire Maradona Stadium and the team itself. I mean, they really messed up by getting on our nerves. And 3, look, our attack, you can mix and match. The output is always goals. It's always goals, apart from the game against, you know, Juventus. But the output is goals, and that's fantastic. Also, when you consider that some of these players are not fully at their peak potential. Even Lukaku, guys, 2 assists, 1 goal, and he's not the same Lukaku as the Lukaku of Inter. So imagine he gets to that level. And by the way, that pass that he did for Neres, incredible. Not many number 9s in the world can do that. Protect the ball and play very fast a through ball to a teammate coming in from behind. So very pleased with the impact that all the new guys have had. Neres, Lukaku, Scott McTominay, very, very pleased. And the old guard, Lobotka, Di Lorenzo, Anguissa, Kvara, Politano, all doing super well as well. So guys, that's the analysis of the game. I hope I covered everything. Look, I'm not gonna make huge amounts of edits here, probably not any. So I hope you guys were able to follow when I was speaking about different parts of the game without the screenshots. But do remember that I just need to go out and get some fresh air before the weekends. So guys, I'll catch you at some point in the next week. And as always, Forza Napoli sempre. Ciao.